Have you ever wondered what really happens in the shadows when billions of dollars vanish from the crypto market in a matter of minutes? One moment, everything seems stable. The next, a tidal wave of red candles sweeps across the screen, liquidating portfolios and leaving a trail of financial devastation. Recently, just such a flash crash sent shockwaves through the entire ecosystem. And almost immediately, the rumor mill went into overdrive. Who was behind it? Was it a rogue whale dumping their holdings? Coordinated attack by insiders? Or maybe it was the shadowy hand of a centralized exchange, manipulating the market for its own gain? The crypto community was buzzing with theories, each more conspiratorial than the last. As everyone scrambled to find the ghost in the machine responsible for the chaos, the initial fallout was a frantic and messy blame game. Fingers were pointed in every direction, casting suspicion on anyone with enough influence to move the market. Some whispered it was a classic whale maneuver, a single, powerful entity offloading a massive position to trigger a cascade of liquidations. Others speculated about insiders with privileged information orchestrating the crash for personal profit. Even major geopolitical events were dragged into the narrative as a potential catalyst. But as the digital dust began to settle, one platform found itself at the epicenter of the controversy: Hyperliquid. The decentralized exchange reported a staggering figure that seemed almost unbelievable, nearly $10 billion in liquidations. To put that into perspective, that single number was more than the total liquidations reported by all the major centralized exchanges like Binance and Bybit combined. The crypto world was stunned. How could a single decentralized platform account for such an astronomical volume of forced closures? The immediate reaction was one of deep suspicion. Critics and rival platforms pounced, accusing Hyperliquid of foul play, system instability, or worse, outright manipulation. The narrative quickly formed that this relatively new player must have been the weak link, the single point of failure that brought the market to its knees. Facing a firestorm of criticism and accusations, Hyperliquid didn't retreat into silence. Instead, they responded with a bold and almost defiant claim: radical transparency. In a detailed public statement, the exchange's team addressed the controversy head-on, arguing that the massive liquidation number wasn't a sign of failure, but a testament to the integrity of their on-chain system. They drew a sharp contrast between their own operations and those of centralized giants like Binance. On a centralized exchange, they explained, liquidations often happen behind a curtain in a black box system. Users have to trust that the exchange is acting fairly, but there's no way to independently verify the process in real time. Hyperliquid argued that their decentralized nature meant the opposite was true. Every single liquidation, from the smallest to the largest, occurs directly on the blockchain. It's a public, immutable record that anyone can inspect and audit at any time. There are no hidden mechanisms, no backroom deals. They weren't hiding the $10 billion figure. They were broadcasting it because their system was designed to be fully transparent, for better or for worse. The exchange then moved to address the most pressing concern for any trader: the risk of platform insolvency. In a high-volatility event, the nightmare scenario is bad debt, which occurs when a liquidated position's collateral isn't enough to cover the loss, forcing the exchange to either absorb the loss or socialize it among its users, effectively making solvent traders pay for the mistakes of insolvent ones. Hyperliquid proudly announced that despite the unprecedented market turmoil and the $10 billion in liquidations, their platform had maintained zero bad debt. Not a single dollar of loss was passed on to other users. This, they claimed, was definitive proof that their risk management system had worked exactly as intended. All user positions remained fully collateralized, and the integrity of the exchange was never compromised. The system bent under extreme pressure, but it never broke. This claim was a direct challenge to the narrative that they were the source of the market's instability. Instead, they positioned themselves as a fortress that had weathered the storm without any structural damage. So how did they manage to handle such immense pressure without collapsing? Hyperliquid explained that the secret lies in their sophisticated, multi-layered liquidation mechanism. It's not a simple, monolithic system. Instead, it relies on a series of interconnected liquidity pools, each designed to act as a backstop to contain systemic risk. When a large position needs to be liquidated, The system doesn't just dump it onto the open market, which would crash the price and create a death spiral. Instead, it turns to these specialized pools. The first line of defense might be a dedicated insurance fund. If that's not enough, it can tap into other pools, including those funded by liquidity providers who earn a yield for taking on this specific risk. Some of these pools might take small, controlled losses during a massive liquidation event, but their purpose is to act as buffers, absorbing the shock and preventing it from spreading throughout the entire network. This compartmentalized approach ensures that even if one part of the system is under extreme stress, the broader network remains stable and solvent. It's a design philosophy that prioritizes collective stability over individual profit. As part of their defense, Hyperliquid also went on the offensive, subtly suggesting that they were the target of a coordinated smear campaign. They stated unequivocally that their platform does not profit from forced liquidations. Unlike some exchanges where liquidations can be a lucrative source of revenue, their system was designed to be neutral. They accused rival exchanges, particularly centralized ones, of fanning the flames of the controversy. They implied that these competitors were using the flash crash as an opportunity to launch a negative PR blitz aiming to discredit a rising decentralized competitor and, more importantly, deflect attention from their own internal issues and lack of transparency. It was a classic case of misdirection. Create a scandal around your rival to keep the public from looking too closely at your own operations. The subtext was clear. The old guard of centralized finance was feeling threatened by the efficiency and transparency of new decentralized protocols, and they were willing to play dirty to maintain their dominance. The world of centralized exchanges wasn't silent during this debate. In what seemed like a veiled response to the rising prominence of decentralized finance, Binance's CEO Changpeng Zhao, or CZ, made a public statement of his own. While he didn't mention Hyperliquid by name, his timing and message were telling. He reminded the community that when technical outages on Binance lead to user losses, for example, if a trader is unable to close a position due to a system glitch during a volatile period, Binance has a history of compensating those affected users. It was a subtle but powerful defense of the centralized model. The implicit argument was that while decentralized platforms might boast about on-chain transparency, they lack a central authority that can step in and make things right when something goes wrong. A centralized exchange, with its vast resources and customer service infrastructure, can offer a safety net that fully decentralized protocols cannot. It was a strategic move to highlight the perceived benefits of centralization, accountability, and customer protection, even if it comes at the cost of some transparency. While the exchanges battled for control of the narrative, out there investigators were busy trying to trace the origin of the sell-off. The hunt for the whale who initiated the crash led down a rabbit hole of on-chain forensics. Eventually, some analysts began to point toward a potential link to the CEO of Bitforex, another exchange that had recently been embroiled in its own scandal involving halted withdrawals and disappearing funds. The theory suggested that the whale's massive sell order might have been an attempt to cash out assets connected to the troubled exchange. However, this claim remained highly speculative and unconfirmed. Without a definitive confession or irrefutable on-chain evidence linking the wallets directly to the individual, it remained just another compelling but unproven theory in a sea of speculation. The true identity of the initial seller, if it was indeed a single entity, remained shrouded in mystery. A ghost that had triggered the avalanche and then vanished back into the digital ether. Ultimately, as the market began to stabilize and objective analyses emerged, a more nuanced consensus began to form. Most seasoned analysts concluded that the crash wasn't the work of a single bad actor or a single flawed platform. The dramatic sell-off wasn't caused by one person or one exchange, but by a perfect storm of systemic factors that had been building for weeks. The primary driver was excessive leverage. Too many traders had borrowed heavily to amplify their bets, creating a fragile system where even a small dip in price could trigger a cascade of margin calls. This was compounded by thin liquidity. There simply were enough buyers in the market to absorb the massive sell orders once the liquidations began. Finally, the automated nature of modern trading meant that once the dominoes started to fall, algorithms took over, executing liquidations at a speed and scale that no human could manage. It wasn't a conspiracy. It was a brutal, automated unwinding of a dangerously over-leveraged market. In the end, this entire saga leaves us with a stark and crucial lesson. one that every crypto investor, new or old, needs to internalize. The idea of a blue-chip crypto is a dangerous illusion. We saw tokens that are often hailed as the safest and most established assets in the space, the digital equivalent of blue-chip stocks, crash just as hard, if not harder, than their smaller, more speculative counterparts. When the tide of liquidity goes out, everything built on leverage gets exposed. This event serves as a powerful reminder that every single asset in the crypto space, regardless of its market cap, its reputation, or its technology, should be treated as a higher-risk investment. The potential for massive gains will always be intertwined with the potential for sudden, gut-wrenching losses. The real takeaway isn't about which exchange is better or who was to blame. It's a fundamental lesson in risk management and the unforgiving nature of volatile markets.